Well, could we start with this?
I thought we had.
No, no, no. Because I tell you why. Because we used to do this every time we talk to a musician, an artist. We ask the musician to introduce himself to the audience, but the way the artist would like to be introduced. I mean, let's pretend I can do my job properly. What should I say to introduce you?
Oh, this is Wayne Hussey from The Mission. He's been around a long, long time. He's played with lots of different people. He was once the guitarist in the Sisters of Mercy. He was once the guitarist in Dead or Alive. He was once the guitarist with Pauline Murray. He's an all-round nice guy. He loves animals. He's got dogs and cats and parrots, and we don't keep parrots, but we have parrots in our garden. Married to a beautiful Brazilian, live in Brazil, and I support Liverpool Football Club.
Great. Very, very, very nice introducing. Well, you mentioned Dead or Alive with Pete Burns and Sister of Mercy. You were really really young in that time. I think it was beginning the 80s. What kind of
Yeah.
memories do you have of those bands, those people, and those times?
Well, I mean, like anybody else with any other job. I mean, how do you remember your jobs in the early 80s? I mean,
Mhm.
I remember some specific incidents, and there's a lot I don't remember, of course. But I remember most of my time with both bands very fondly. You know,
Mhm.
I got on very well with Pete, and Dead or Alive were a gang. We didn't actually do many shows
Mhm.
in the band for 2 years, but we used to rehearse a lot, play together a lot, but we didn't do many shows. But we used to go out nightclubbing together a lot, the band, and we were a gang, which
Yeah.
is always been my idea of what a band should be. It should
Uh-huh.
be a gang, us against the world. And the Sisters of Mercy, I mean, I joined the Sisters of Mercy in 1983. They were already kind of had a few independent singles that had done really well. Um, Andrew has is been well chronicled before. Andrew is not the easiest person in the world to work with, or he wasn't. I don't know what he's like now. It's a long time ago. I haven't seen him for a long time, but I have very fond memories of my time with the sisters. I mean, we did a lot of touring, and we went to a lot of places I'd never been to before. So that was always good. Obviously, I made friends with Craig, and we've
Mhm.
been lifetime friends ever since.
Yeah.
So that's good. And every road that you take leads you to where you are eventually. So
Uh-huh.
every road, every decision I made in my life has led me to where I am now. Where I am now is not a bad place to be. I'm living in Brazil. I've got a beautiful, beautiful wife. We got a beautiful home. We got pets, and it's a quiet life. And I still get to go and be the rock star and we go on tour. And, we still get to play shows and make music. And I get to make music for a living. And I love making new music, unlike a lot of musicians. I mean, with the mission, obviously, there's a lot of it's about nostalgia. I
Mhm.
understand that. I understand that's what the audience mainly come in to see. But if we've got new songs, I want to play them. So tough. You want Tower of
Great.
Strength? You want Tower of Strength? You're gonna have a listen to this new one first.
And one thing, excuse me, I like to know in those moments when you were starting with Dead or Alive or The Sister of Mercy, did you realize in that moment the things you were doing, the things that is going to be so important later?
No, of course not. I mean, you can't. I mean, no, nobody can.
Uh-huh.
You know, no. I mean, if I if I'd known that, then I would have kept a diary, I think, of recording First and Last and Always, for instance. That album has gone on to become regarded as a classic of its genre, and well, I mean, I've got some memories of recording it, and most, and I remember the difficulties we had in recording it, but I also
Mhm.
remember how great it felt when we were doing it. And like for Marianne, for instance, I mean, Marianne, nobody else was in the studio, and the engineer was there, and I just finished what I had to do, and it was like, okay, I've got a new idea. So I just basically wrote and recorded the whole of Marianne in one
Mhm.
afternoon, and all the guitars and everything, the bass and everything. And then, Andrew came in the end of the day, and because Andrew worked at night, I worked during the day. And Andrew came in and said, "Oh, I don't like that very much. It sounds like Susie and the Banshees." It's like,
Uh-huh.
Whatever. So then I went back to the hotel. Well, it wasn't a hotel, it was just like a little motel boarding house thing. And then next day I came in and there was finished vocal on the track. So, that was a very rare occasion where Andrew was inspired enough to do something immediately with a
Mhm.
tune. Otherwise, Andrew took a long time to do things.
Uh-huh.
I mean, I don't know what he's like now, but at the time, he was very deliberate about the words that he wrote. So he would spend weeks, months, even on a set of lyrics, which is fine. I mean, I know that's the way Leonard Cohen wrote as well. Whereas
Mhm.
I prefer personally something that's a bit more. I don't know, immediate. Bob Dylan, Bob Dylan can
Mhm.
write a song in 10 minutes. And I think, okay, for me, a, a new song at its most potent is when it's first written.
Uh-huh.
So I think, but sometimes when you have two opposite um, ways of working that
Mhm.
meld together, you actually can create great art. And we did on, some of that album was great, you know. But it wasn't an easy album to make.
Mhm. Yeah.
Mm.
And then later, when you start with the mission, uh, obviously there was a change in your role in the band. You were musician, and then you were the frontman.
Yeah.
How hard was it
Yeah.
for you? Was it hard, or was it something easy?
Uh, I think I kind of took a lot of drugs and drank a lot to get me through it at the beginning. I'm naturally quite a shy person, quite a reserved person
Hmm.
socially. But being on stage in front of an audience, it's something that I kind of grew into over the first, I don't know, 6 months of the mission. And then, yeah, it became something that um it felt quite natural. I mean, I do think that the drugs in the drink had a lot to do with the
Hmm.
persona, and but I mean, I don't drink now, and I don't take drugs on tour or anything like that, and I don't drink on tour anymore. And when I first stopped drinking and went on stage, I felt very self-conscious for the first few shows and very self-conscious for the first few songs. But at some point, that persona kicks in, and
Uh-huh.
what that makes me think is that persona is actually my own defense mechanism.
Hmm.
Not It's nothing to do with drink. It's nothing to do with drugs.
Uh-huh.
It's actually my own psyche. You know.
Of course.
Yeah. But
Great,
no,
great.
I mean, it. The hardest part for me from being going from being the guitarist to being the singer is actually writing the words of the
Mhm.
songs. That I still find that the most difficult part of the process.
Great, great. Well, talking about that name change you had, the sisterhood to the mission. Once I read Craig Agadam said that it was because I guess something like the speakers he liked, and on the other side, some people say that it was because of your origins, your family. They were Mormons, and they were missioners. I don't know what's the real reason.
Both,
Uh huh.
both. How we came about the name the mission was I was sat with Mick Brown, original mission drummer, at home in Leeds early on, and we were trying to think of names for a band, you know. So we were drinking and we were doing speed and we were up all night, and I had what was a missionary diary that my
Mm,
mother and father had bought me in the vain hope of me going on a Mormon mission. Anyway, I was using that to make notes, and I was writing down names of the band, and we were listening to music, and my speakers at the time were mission speakers.
mm-hmm.
So it was like, I think Mick said, "How about mission?" It's
Uh-huh.
like speakers, and it's like, yeah, okay, I'll put that on the list. The mission, the mission. So it was in my missionary diary, and then obviously there was a lot of other silly names and one or two serious contenders, but I think when we both eventually fell asleep and woke up the next day, we looked at the list and thought, well, most of that's rubbish, but the mission sounds good.
Uh-huh.
And so
Great.
that's where it came.
Well, talking about your family and your origins and the Mormons, uh, I guess you were not so happy then when you were young. All over the years, what's your relationship with God and religion?
I was happy as a kid. I didn't know any different. I think in many ways my childhood was quite idyllic. Yes, I was raised as a Mormon, so I didn't know any different. My whole family were. My mum was converted first, and then obviously my brothers and sisters would go to church as well with me, and then my dad, like I don't know, 3 or 4 years later, was converted. So it was a family thing.
Uh-huh.
So it was just normal to us,
Mm-hmm.
really. That's okay. When on a Sunday we all go to church. On a Monday we have family home evening, which is basically everybody stays home and we have
Mm-hmm.
an eat together as a family. Then on Friday there was like a youth club for the church members, at the church and other things. So my social life was all built around the church
Mm-hmm.
until I got to the age of maybe 15, 16, where I started playing in bands and realizing that the girls like people in bands. And and also at that point I started to question what I was being taught with the Mormon religion. I did believe in God, but I thought, well, there's lots of other choices. So I actually spent a little time going to different churches. So instead of going to the Mormon church on the weekend, I would go, I don't know, to the Church of England one weekend, and then Presbyterian church the next weekend, and then maybe a Catholic.
Mm-hmm.
So I did try other churches, and I think the end result was that I ended up not believing in God.
Uh-huh. Great.
I, I mean, and to this day, I mean, when I was younger, I was definitely a lot more sure about what I believed in. But
Uh-huh.
as I've gotten older, I've got, I don't have a clue. I don't know what goes. I don't know what the truth is. And I'm happy not knowing. I
Uh-huh.
don't know if there's life after death. I don't know if there's a God, or what form God takes. I mean, or do we go back to nature? I don't know. I don't know. I mean,
Uh-huh.
obviously, there have been times in my life when I've really thought, yes, this is what happens, or no, this is what happens. But as I've gotten older,
You know,
yeah,
this is the opposite that most of the people used to think because uh, So they say the people who knows about this more than me said that this is related to fear to death because uh, as time goes by they tend to get closer to God because they fear what will happen next.
Yeah, well, I mean, I don't think anybody. I mean, nobody knows what happens, after,
Hmm.
die. And I mean, I'm not scared of death. I'm scared of dying. I'm scared of the way of
Yeah.
dying. I don't want
Hmm.
to die in a lot of pain. But at the
Hmm.
same time, I'm not really scared of death because you have no control over it.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
I'd like to think that what you believe, if like my parents believe that this, my parents are still Mormons, they believe in going to having the celestial kingdom and all the rest of it and having their family with them for all the time for all time in eternity. And I think, well, you know what? I hope that is the case for you. I hope whatever people believe in their life and they dedicate their lives to is what happens to them. I
Hmm.
don't, my rational brain says no, but I don't necessarily think you can be rationalized anyway because there's so much has happened that defies logic.
Hmm. Yeah.
So I don't know if we can actually really ever know. Certainly
Yeah.
not this point in human history.
Of course. Well, let's go back to the mission. We're here to talk about the mission. Then God's Own Medicine. The success of this album was huge, incredible for that moment. Even thinking about the mission's music always was not so commercial, not so mainstream. Did you expect that phenomenon, that kind of success?
I think we did. I mean, without appearing arrogant, I think we had a self-belief when we first got together. And when Simon eventually joined the band and that he was the last person to join, and we kind of knew that we had something special, you know. And I I don't know. It's not like it was an overnight success because I'd been in Dead or Alive, I'd been in Sisters of
Mm,
Mercy. So each band was another stepping stone,
yeah.
up the ladder. So with the mission, we kind of, we'd already done a lot of touring. I'd done a fair bit of recording. I kind of knew what I was doing, but uh, most of those songs on the first Mission album I'd actually originally written for the second Sisters album, but obviously we didn't use them because I'd left the Sisters by then. Um, so I don't know if it was unexpected. Maybe it happened a little faster than we expected.
Hmm.
But I think we always felt that, yeah, we were going to be successful. To what degree, you can never tell. I mean, I saw Depeche Mode in 1980 supporting the Comsat Angels in a little pub in London.
Hmm.
You would never have guessed that they would go on to be the global brand that they've become. There
Uh-huh.
were three
Yeah.
guys on synths with this guy dancing around like crazy. It's like, all right, with really poppy songs. You would never have think, okay, Joy Division's another one, and I'm
Uh-huh.
sure it's a lot to do with Ian Curtis's death, but you would never. I mean, I was in a band, and Joy Division supported us in Liverpool
That's really
early
great.
on.
That's
Yeah,
a good memory.
early on, yeah, and the thing is, they were good. They were good, but you would never think, okay, in 30, 40 years' time, they're going to be like one of the most influential bands of all time.
Hmm.
You can't think in those terms. You don't know. I mean, I remember when Echo and the Bunnymen, Simple Minds, and U2 kind of all came out at the same time, roughly the
Hmm.
same time. And I thought, okay, U2 are all right. Simple Minds, yeah. But I think of those three bands, the band that's going to be the biggest is going to be Echo and the Bunnymen.
Hmm.
Nope, got that one wrong.
Yeah.
Now U2 are bigger,
Yeah.
Simple Minds are bigger than U2 than Bunnymen, so You know, it's a strange thing. And The Cure, for instance, I saw an early gig of The Cure. You would never think that they become a stadium band.
Yeah, yeah.
So
Those
you
kind
can't
of things are strange,
yeah, I mean, obviously they've all created music that's touched people in some way or other.
of course.
That's a given. That's what we all attempt to do with our music. We make music hopefully that other people can relate to and that they feel, but you don't sit down and write music with that intention. You can't. You
Hmm.
cannot meditate that.
Yeah,
That's something you can premeditate. But yeah, but you don't, yeah, you can't tell what is gonna become the zeitgeist of at any
yeah,
given time.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
And things have changed a lot with internet, social media, and all those stuff. Especially the way the younger people listen to the music. These kind of things that, for example, if you don't catch their attention in the first 10 or 15 seconds, they're gone. Um, that was not the case in the 80s,
No.
even in the 70s. That kind of things that we can deny. The things are just like that.
Uh-huh. Yeah,
Do
but
that do
that's
they?
not. But is that the audience that I want to appeal to?
Uh-huh. I was going to that point. Because
Because with AI, you can get AI to produce music that
uh-huh.
cater to that, and sadly, I think that is the way that pop music is going to go. But AI will never ever replace 4 or 5 people on a stage playing together.
Uh-huh.
AI can't do that. And I
Yeah.
think at some point, if you, how can I say this? This sounds terribly. It sounds like it comes from an old man, but I listen to pop music of the last 10 years. Most of it sounds really generic.
Hmm.
Most of the same chord structures,
Yeah.
the same kind of melodies, the same kind of dynamics. Maybe a lot of it is to do with computers and the fact that it can all be done, with plugins and the rest of it. You still, to get the best out of technology, you still need to have an imagination. I think someone like Billie Eilish, for instance, actually is really, really good. I think she is great and a
Hmm.
fantastic pop star and role model for younger people. She speaks her mind. She is beautiful, but she's not conventionally beautiful in the way that, say,
Hmm.
Taylor Swift is.
Yeah.
And her songs are, I mean, they do, they make them in their bedroom. Even now, even now, they make them in
Uh-huh.
their at home. Her and Phineas, and that is something that's inherent in the music that they make, is that you can feel that it really comes from them. Whereas
Yeah.
most pop music, has 6 or 7 writers of a song.
Hmm.
It's written by
Yeah.
committee. You can't write songs by committee.
Uh-huh.
You can't. But I think artificial intelligence will. I mean, okay, think of it this way. Okay, you're making a movie. You want a soundtrack that. Okay, but you don't want to pay Hans Zimmer
Uh-huh.
$5 million to do you. So you go to AI and say, look, I want a soundtrack in the style of Hans Zimmer for this.
Hmm.
Pay nothing. And you'll
Hmm.
get you'll get something that sounds similar to Hans Zimmer. It won't have the heart, but I don't think necessarily that people are looking for heart in their
Hmm.
art.
Yeah.
I think of the Sphere in Las Vegas where they're putting on the big shows now. U2 have played there, and a few. If I don't know if you've seen that place, but it's like going to Disneyland,
Mm.
and it's not a rock and roll show anymore. It's something else. It's like watching something on IMAX. You know,
Uh-huh.
it's
Yeah.
I mean, it's obviously a spectacle, but it's not. it's not a show where you interact with the band. You
Hmm.
know, band are remote. They're off in the distance. I don't know. I don't know. I don't know. I mean, when we were young, I think we valued our music a lot more because we had to go and find it. We had to go and buy it. We had to go and find it in the record stores. We had to go and get it. Whereas now, a click of a keyboard, you can hear what you want. You can download what you want,
Hmm.
and you don't have to pay for it. A lot of it. You
Yeah.
know, and that's a whole nother thorny issue, which makes life very difficult for working musicians. But some would say that's progress. And
Yeah, that point. Do you think this is just a moment in time, or this is the way things are going to be from now on?
I think it's the way it's gonna be from now on. I think it's gonna be even more. I think pop music generally is easily disposable. It always has been. If you really want to go
Mm.
back into the 60s, okay, you had really good pop music too, like the Beatles and the Rolling Stones, but you also had a lot of stuff that was very, throwaway one-hit wonders and, manufactured pop, and I think people just want something that's easy.
Hmm.
Same with films and television shows, I think I've got
Even
Netflix.
in books.
Yeah, even
Even
in
in
books,
books.
everything. Yeah, I put on Netflix and say, we spend an hour trying to find something
Yeah.
to watch, and it's
Yeah.
all it's all geared to the lowest common denominator. It's all pop and easily digestible.
Hmm.
I don't know. I like to be entertained rather than educated. I think
Yeah.
when I want entertainment, I'd rather be entertained than educated. But at the
Hmm.
same time, I can't sit there and watch stupid, mindless. Well, I can actually. I mean, I watch Emily in Paris. That's my guilty pleasure.
Great. Well,
But it's
there's,
it's silly, it's stupid, and it's mindless, and it's pop. But sometimes when I've been in the studio all day and I go into the house at 10 o'clock at night, I just want something that's easy, just clears my head.
of course. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. There's we could say a new wave of after punk and dark music. Those Russians and East Europe bands. What do you think about it? Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I think okay, I've been talking about generic pop music, but I actually think um the 2000s was actually a really poor time for music, I think. But I
Hmm.
think in the last 10 years or so, there have been more younger bands playing guitars and actually doing more interesting things. They're not necessarily mainstream, you
Hmm.
know. They're more alternative. They're more you have to kind of dig them out on Spotify and things like that.
Yeah.
There is some very good new stuff out there, some very good new bands and making good music. One of my favorites was the Soft Moon, but the singer died
Hmm.
um, earlier this year. I really liked them, for instance, and Cigarettes After Sex, I really like, although they've been around 5 or 6 years now. But I mean, there is some good stuff out there, good new stuff. Yeah,
Wait, you were being part of Beauty in Chaos with
yeah,
your even with your wife there.
yeah.
What can you tell us about it?
Well, Michael Ciravolo, who is the CEO of Schecter Guitars, is a very good friend of mine, has been for a long time. And he's always played in bands, but it's always kind of been a hobby because his main job is being the company director of Schecter
Hmm.
Guitars.
Hmm.
Uh, and so I don't know, maybe 5, 6 years ago, he was playing with, what was he playing? What name of the band? I've forgotten. I've forgotten who he was playing with now. He was playing with Gene Loves Jezebel for a little while,
Hmm.
and Johnny Indovina. I've forgotten what band. Anyway, he was playing in a couple of bands, but somebody suggested to him, he said, "Look, you need to make your own album. You know, you've got Schecter has its own studio. You've got the facility there to go and record your own album." So, and he had a, you know, a big list of contacts, obviously,
Yeah.
because of who he is and what he does. So, you know, he makes guitars for, I mean, he made guitars for Prince, you know,
Yeah.
I mean, guitars for loads of people. So, you know, he said, okay, yeah, I'm not going to try and make one. So he wrote a bunch of songs, and then he asked a few people to guest vocal, you
Hmm.
know, send you the track, and so you write some words and you write vocal melody, and then you send it back to him, and then that's how it's worked. And I don't know, I've done 4 or 5 with him now, I think. But you know, I like what he does, and I think he deserves more attention
Hmm. Yeah.
actually, because he puts so much effort into what he does and so much care into the quality of what he does,
Hmm.
and um, you know, releases everything on vinyl.
Yeah.
Uh, but you know, it's so difficult to even just to recoup its
Hmm.
cost. But you know,
Yeah.
it's something he's wanted to do. So in that respect, he's achieved something that he's always wanted to do, and it's actually evolved into something that's an ongoing thing. I think this is like the third or fourth Beauty and Chaos album now. So, you know, it's a project that he can realize his own creative potential, which is
Great.
great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, Wayne, any plans for some kind of new The Mission album?
Yes, we are. I'm starting to write new songs, and I've got a few on the go. Just working on one here actually. Anyway, that's enough of it.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that's a new mission song I'm working on. Yeah, no, I want to make a new mission album next year. I was planning to do it this year, but we keep getting asked to play shows, so it's like, okay, let,
Great. Great.
let,
Well, I guess we're out of time. So now we can sell the show. You'll be here in Argentina in October with Christian Death.
yep.
Great partners, I think.
Well, we're the light, they're the dark.
Yeah, great, great. I think it's a good pair.
Yeah.
Wait, tell our people here in Argentina why should Argentina's fans attend to that gig?
Because they love us and we love them. The Buenos Aires audience is one of if not my favorite, is one of my favorite audiences in the world. I'm not just saying this, but Buenos Aires is my favorite South American city.
Uh-huh.
I do love that city, and whenever we've played there as a band, going back to 1988 even, and every time we've played it since, the audiences have always been really special, very, very warm. They sing the guitar lines.
Yeah,
They
it's so
know
usual here.
yeah, they know all the words. And
Yeah.
it's like then you speak to them, they can't speak English, yet they know all the words to the songs. It's
Uh-huh.
amazing. I just really love playing to the Argentinian audience. And of course, we were there only 2 years ago, but we got quite a few songs we have since then we've been playing that we weren't playing at the time. We've got some new songs, and of course, we will play some of the songs that people want to hear. You know.
Thank you very much,
Okay.
man.
All right. You take care. Thank you.
Goodbye, goodbye.
Bye bye.